society where the people are at the center of the economic activities of this country. We want the people to drive the economy. We want the people to catalyze the economy. We want the people to own the economy and own the revenue of this economy. We're also very convinced that a third world economy cannot liberate its people economically when it is based on the capitalist formation structure. MMD struggled with this, they failed. PF struggled with this, they failed. And I think the UPND would reach the same end. Because the economy was not designed to be independent of our former colonial masters. It was designed purely as a supplier of raw material to the West, which actually has the technology to add value to our raw material and make us import goods at 10 times the price of copper, for example, that we export. So that's the synopsis of the economic front.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. We truly appreciate you making time and actually having conversations with us this morning, President Kabimba.
A pleasure.
Wonderful. So to our listeners, you will be able to actually have a conversation with us on the numbers 0977-336-085 or 0761-700-700. But we will be able to open up the phone lines slightly a little bit later so that we can actually get in conversations with President Kabimba, who is in studio, and we will be basically having a conversation in relation to basically analyzing the economic condition at the moment from the perspective of the economic front, and we will be able to get time to actually ask our questions so we can actually pose them to President Kabimba a little bit later. So I definitely encourage every one of us to be on standby and listen through the program so that we can pick one or two things that President Kabimba is actually going to be talking about. But right about now, we do have the headlines coming up at exactly 12 hours, so we're going to be taking a short break. When we come back, we get into the conversations of the bottom line program. Now, for those that may need or may feel they want to
let's go. On One Love Radio. Our mission is the proclamation of God's great love and salvation to this generation, shining the light of His love across the city and beyond. This is One Love Radio, inspiring, life-changing radio.
One Love Radio News Headlines.
With the headlines on One Love Radio, my name is Kondwani Maplanga. President Hakainde Hichilema has assured the nation that government will deliver peaceful and credible elections in August 2026. Renowned agriculture expert Dr. Oliver Ulaya is calling for swift expansion of Zambia's soil mapping and testing program nationwide. Kenya is facing the aftermath of several weeks of torrential rains and severe flooding that have now killed at least 108 people. Chipolopolo assistant coach Andrew Sinkala has joined the squad in Buenos Aires as preparations intensify for Tuesday's high-profile international friendly against Argentina. These were the headlines. At 12, we have the main news coming up at 13. My name is Kondwani Maplanga. Pleasant listening.
OneWeb Radio News Headlines.
We're still having conversations on the Bottom Line program, and my guest this morning is party president Wynter Kabimba, who is coming through from the Economic Front Party, and we are having conversations in relation to basically an analysis of what is actually going on in terms of the economy as well as the political landscape. Well, I welcome you back, President Kabimba, to the program.
Thank you, Kondwani.
Thank you. So basically, I would like us to start it off by an analysis from your perspective, how we are performing currently as a country, and in just a general sense, how do you analyze the economy at the moment?
Well, I actually start with a small disclaimer.
Yes, please.
I'm not an economist.
Yes.
So my understanding of economics is therefore limited. What I understand and have some knowledge about is political economy. The politics that affect an economy, especially a third world economy like ours. So if you drag me to fiscal area, macroeconomics, microeconomics, I do not have that knowledge.
Okay.
But you don't have to have the knowledge in economics to see what is going on. Because you get affected one way or the other. So, firstly, I think in terms of the debt portfolio, I think the country has been rescued from the claws of our creditors.
Okay.
So the restructuring of the debt should certainly be perceived as a success story. I don't think that anybody would have a better alternative than what UPND has offered. Beyond that restructuring of the debt, I'm not very sure whether or not the economy is delivering it to the poor of this country. The wretched souls in Kamanga compound, in Kalingalinga, in Chiwolia, in the hinterlands of our nation. Why? Because an economy must reflect and improve the material conditions of a people. And these are basically food, shelter, items of clothing, potable water, and many other indices. I don't think that anybody would argue, even here in Lusaka, that the restructuring of the debt has led to lower prices of essential commodities. I think the essential commodities are still, the prices are still high, especially the food items such as mini meal, cooking oil, tomatoes, kabimba, including vegetables.
Okay.
So we still have the majority of families of our people, not only in cities but even in villages, that can hardly afford a decent meal. Now here is the effect of that. The first line of defense for your body and my body is not antibiotics, it is nutrition. So, if our nutrition levels are low because we can't afford to buy the food that contains the nutrients that the body needs, then we become susceptible to all sorts of diseases. We become vulnerable in terms of health. So the issue of food is not only about feeding my belly, it is also about giving me a defense mechanism against diseases. And therefore, if our people can't afford basic food, then that economy has failed. So in summary, that would be my argument.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarity. And probably allow me to bring your attention to the issue in relation to the 24-hour economy.
Yeah.
How did you receive Cabinet's approval of the introduction of a 24-hour economy?
I was confused. My first reaction was it threw me into a state of confusion. I know that UPND has been talking about it. I know that the president has been talking about a 24-hour economy. But I didn't know that it would come this early. I didn't know that it would come without supporting infrastructure. I didn't know that it would catch people unawares. Okay? When I read the supporting arguments, for introducing a 24-hour economy, meaning that business houses will be open 24 hours. And I looked at the comparison that was being made as a way of justifying that government policy. That London has a 24-hour economy, New York has a 24-hour economy, Tokyo in Japan has a 24-hour economy. I said to myself, we are comparing a cat and a chicken. They don't belong to the same species. Okay? I don't think that London became a 24-hour economy city 61 years after the fall of the Roman Empire. I don't think that New York became a 24-hour economy city 61 years after the establishment of that state. It took a longer time to reach there. It took putting in place a productive economy, not a monocultural economy, an economy like ours which is still dependent on copper. It took the establishment of factories in these cities, enhanced productivity and production of goods and services. And because of that enhancement, the demand must have come from people that look, 8 hours of us interacting economically is too short a period of time. I don't think it came from government. I have to do more reading on it. I think it must have come from the people, because these are the drivers of the economy. Here, we don't even have the buying power to sustain this economy in 8 hours during the day. Where will that power come from, buying power come from, just because the sun has set? Kwa fipa, how do you become richer ukafipa than you were during the day? You are the same person. How? What magic are you going to play? When you drive around when you drive around Lusaka, by 21 hours, this city has gone to sleep. You hardly find any economic activity, to talk about. The restaurants have to bus their employees to their various compounds. And now you are going to have a second shift or a night shift. I can tell you those workers will be paid for nothing. If people are realistic that if during the day I can walk into a restaurant and only find 2 tables occupied, and mine and a colleague of mine will be the third one. If in the evening I can go for dinner and find only 3 tables occupied, and by the time you are leaving the restaurant, you say about 21 hours, the tables are empty. Nobody is walking in. I don't think that we have yet reached a stage where our economic activities, our buying power, the production of goods and services can sustain a 24-hour economy. That's the view that we take in the economic front.
Now, President Kabimba, I would like to find out from you, in relation to, you did state something that's very important, is are we able to sustain this 24-hour economy by our own participation as a people? I like the example that you gave and said, how will you be richer in the night if you are failing to be rich during the day?
Yes, if you are poor during the day, and you can't afford goods, but any goods and services during the day. How does darkness make you a rich person?
Okay, so I would like to find out, there have been some people that have stated that probably we take a phased approach. So instead of going wholly into the 24-hour economy by just allowing every business, we try to take a phased approach where we're doing it in segmentations, and that is the argument. Do you think that would probably assist us?
Segments of what?
Of operation. So let's say the way you talked about the shift approach, people now we're bringing in new shifts. So I think one of the callers on a previous program right here on One Love Radio said, gave an example of the old having worked some time back for a named company, and that they had a 3-shift system. Though in respect that this company is quite big, so why do you think that if we were to do it in a phased approach where we probably, instead of doing it 24 hours, we just increase the time frame, do you think that would be the operation time frame? Do you think that would probably assist us to slightly adjust ourselves or adapt ourselves to the idea of a 24-hour?
There are a lot of things that are required, before we can get into 24-hour economy. Issues of security, for example. Okay. How do you deal with the issues of security? This city, if you drive around at night, 80% of the lights are out. They don't function. We have no cameras around. We are not yet a camera city like New York, like London. Our policing system is still not one that can sustain a 24-hour economy. Our police service is limited, even in terms of just the number of vehicles which they have. Let alone the budget. That will require an increase in the budget to the police for fuel, for allowances, for working at night, around, yes, in the night, etc., etc. So it has a lot of demand. on the state, on the government, to make it functional. Okay? And this is not a new concept. There are a few of these mini-marts, at service stations that tried to open for 24 hours. They failed. They failed to sustain that. This is an economy which is still basically a trading economy. What you see around Zambia is actually not manufacturing. It is predominantly trading. So this is a trading economy. Nobody is manufacturing goods in surplus. The so-called manufacturers are still struggling with all sorts of challenges. The rate of the dollar to the quarter, for them to import raw materials from outside to come and manufacture goods here. They are still faced with the problem of transportation of those goods across the country. They are still afflicted with the issues of marketing. You produce goods in Lusaka. Where do you market those goods? If the people in Lusaka cannot even buy 50% of your goods, who is going to buy those goods in Chipata? Who is going to cover your transportation cost? This is an economy which is lopsided. When you meet a number of people today who tell you, I used to live in Choma, I've moved to Lusaka. I used to live on the Copper Belt, there's nothing going on there, I've now moved to Lusaka. Because the opportunities are only, so-called opportunities, are only limited to Lusaka. Once you move out of Lusaka, there's no economy to talk about. So all these things come to mind when you are discussing this 24-hour economy. Again, instead of just making a pronouncement and throwing it, into our face like that, the government must give us more detail.
Okay.
Otherwise, it will just remain an idea in cabinet office.
Let's talk about the importance of communication. From the way you're responding to the questions, is you are responding after based off something that you have basically read about, something you have seen, and basically something that you are trying to understand before you can actually comment. I think that is what I'm getting from your conversations. From your perspective, how would you probably view communication as a party, and when you make government? How do you look at the communication mechanisms that you have put in place as a party?
Communication is very important. It's at the core of the success of any government or any company. Communication is fundamental. Because if you have an idea but you can't communicate it, that idea is as good as dead. So you must have the skill and the ability to communicate an idea. So communication in government is very important. When I was Secretary General of PF, we paid a lot of attention to the aspect of communication, whether online or just physically. And I can tell you that I saw the importance of communication because it yielded results. No doubt, one of the components that made PF win the election in 2011 was that we had an effective communication system within the party. when we interacted with the radio stations such as ours, yours here, we had a message and we knew how to communicate that message to the people. And we also had a feedback mechanism. We had to find out if our message is really landing on what may be called fertile ground. And all the companies, all the institutions, and all the countries that have invested in communication have seen communication yield results and contribute to the progress of that country.
Okay, very interesting. Now 0977-336-085 or 0761-700-700, those are the numbers that you can call us on in case you'd have a question for President Kabimba. He is in studio with us. We are talking about all matters related to the state of the country, and as well as governance, as well as touching on the political landscape as our primary focus. Now, coming to that one, President Kabimba, we're looking at a year when we have our general elections, and so when we analyze the political landscape, we notice there is a lot of energy coming through from the different political parties that will be taking part. How do you analyze and how do you look at the political landscape in the country currently?
Well, what is going on is good for democracy. It's encouraging. It means that we can sustain our democracy through divergent views from different groups of citizens. Okay? So, unlike the view from many citizens that you have too many political parties, the view I take is that, in fact, if you are going to ensure that democracy thrives, you must have many political parties. There was a time in Bangladesh when they had 150 presidential candidates.
Wow.
150. Now, you can argue that Bangladesh has a big population of over 100 million. Yes. But even then, how do you choose from, just imagine a ballot paper with 150 candidates. It will take you 5 to 10 minutes to find your candidate on that ballot paper. I'm not sure how they did it, but I still think that it would be an onerous task. And here we're talking about 40, 45 political parties, and you're saying, oh no, those are too many. Why don't you just come together and kick out UPND while splitting votes, and all those demands and sentiments from the public. The countries that evolved into a two-party state, such as the United States, again evolved over time. If you look at the United Kingdom, or Britain in particular, they have basically 4 to 7 political parties. But that's an old democracy, 700 years plus. The American democracy is 250 years plus. So we are evolving as a country. So the idea of trying to compare our evolution with the advanced countries or developed countries, that is where we are going wrong. Okay? Even if you love your child and they are 2 years old, you can't take them into a grade 7 class, even if you love them. Okay? Because they have to grow to get to that class. So we make mistakes in the third world countries. We like comparing the incomparable. I hear arguments often, even on radio, people phoning in and saying, oh no, but this is what how it is done in South Africa. Excuse me. The fact that it is done like that in South Africa, without you understanding the conditions in which it is done in South Africa, does not make that a success story which you can import into Zambia. So we must understand the social and political conditions of our country. And once we understand that, especially the leaders, then we can have a focus on constructing a better society than what we have today. But if people act lazy, lazy in terms of thinking, and all that we want is to import ideas from outside without importing the conditions, because we can't import the conditions. You can import an idea, but you can't import the conditions in South Africa. You can import an idea from Kenya, but you can't import the conditions in or obtaining in Kenya. And this is where we have a problem. Even when it comes to legislation, Kondwan, I'll tell you that some of the legislation, and I was chairing when I was Minister of Justice, I was chairing the legislation subcommittee of cabinet. Most of the legislation drafting bills that were coming, they were copy and paste. People don't want to think. I think Chibaba, like Martin Luther King said, it pains some people to think. That's why you hear even our debate, our political debate, is very simplistic, extremely simplistic. It's what I call subtract and add. Subtract and add in the sense that if there is load shedding, then I come here as the leader of the opposition political party and say, I'm going to stop load shedding. I don't say how. So I just give the antithesis, the opposite of what the other side is not doing. You've seen now that load shedding is normal, or it has gone down tremendously. Nobody is talking about load shedding that they can stop it. And yet the idea should be we learned lessons from load shedding. And what were those lessons? We need to diversify our energy sector. And in the diversification of the energy sector, what are we supposed to do? The cheapest form of energy for us as a country is hydro energy. Because water is given to us by God. We don't pay for it. So the thinking that what is going to stabilize your energy sector and what is going to give you enough energy is solar energy or wind energy through windmills. It's just not correct because we don't have the technology. We don't have the technology to manufacture solar panels in Zambia. They are still imported from outside. We can't manufacture windmills in Zambia. We can't manufacture solar pumps in Zambia. So all the components that you need for solar energy are imported from outside. But we don't import water. We've had the abundance of water this year. So really, instead of saying climate change has changed and therefore has changed us, and therefore we need what we need to do, and that's our position in the economic front, is investing more in hydro energy. It will be cheaper for our people. It is one of its major components, which is water, is free, and so we can invest mainly in turbines that turn that water. So I'm just giving you this example that since the load shedding ended, those of us in the opposition have very little arguments now to offer. Because that time it was, there is load shedding, imagine mafutika maningi, me I can stop load shedding. Anyway, talk up. No, maybe, price it is too high, me I can make it cheap, And you guys in the media are just as cow people. Because you don't ask, how are you going to do it, sir? How are you going to do it, madam? So when we put him, if we put him on the spot, next time we invite him as a boy. Okay? So you allow people to make wild statements, unsubstantiated statements. Some of them which do not even make sense even in hell. But we accept them. Okay? And you as an interviewer, you just look at me. As really I'm talking about things that are not realistic. And that's what we have come to call politics in our country. So anybody who has nothing to do, they have become politicians. So politics is the biggest employer now in the country.
Okay. Thank you so much for that insight, President Kabimba. Now allow us to pick up a couple of phone calls. We do have
Sure.
the phones buzzing, as I'm sure our listeners would like to find out more about some of the points that you have actually given out, and hopefully we can actually get questions. We did have a message that came through from Mr. Walia from Kafua, who says, may I know if Mr. Kabimba will stand for 2026 elections? This is Walia from Kafua. So probably we can take that one as your first question, so we can pick calls. Is it okay for us to pick calls in sets of 3? Okay, great. So we'll be picking calls in sets of 3, and the phone lines are officially open at 0977336085 or 0761 700. Those are the numbers that you are calling. We pick up our first call. Hello, you are through to One Love Radio. Your name and where you're calling us from. Hello. Buno muri banji ba mwamba. Yo.
Yendi bwina mwana mani bwanyi. Cool. Can't hear him here. It's still on.
totera sana ba Mwamba. 0977-336-085 or 0761-700-700. Those are the numbers that you are calling us on. You'll be able to get through and ask your questions and be able to pose them to President Kabimba, who is in studio with us. We pick up the third call so we can allow President Kabimba to respond. Hello, you are through to One Love Radio. Your name and where you're calling us from. Hello, Mr. Nyirenda. Please go ahead with your question or your comment.
Makora mwanangu mlioni hayo. Taonga. Taonga mwana. Yes. Thank you. Okay, I'll give you a number at the end of the program, and then you can call that number, then I will meet you. Okay.
So those are three questions, I believe, President. I'm sure were able to listen through. We had the first question being from Babwadia from Kafua, who was asking if you are contesting officially for the 2026 general elections. We also had our caller who asked in relation to Ramwamba, who asked about who had some advice saying politicians should go back to the people as they continue to undertake the lobbying that they do. They should also carry whatever they promise and take back to the people. And then we had Mr. Nyirenda, obviously, who asked those questions. Probably you can respond to those few questions that came through.
Thank you. The question for Mr. Wadia, I think I've answered that many a time. But all that I can say, if he must let me know if he is my voter. Is he going to vote for me? He's asking me whether I'll stand. I'm also asking him, next time when I'm on a radio program, I want him to call and tell me, yes, I'm your member, I'm mobilizing in the economic front here in Kafue, and I'm going to vote for you. The second question about the benchmarks of that Mr. What's his name?
The benchmarks, that's Mr. Mwamba.
Mwamba, as he put forward. Then let me say this to Mwamba. Barack Obama said to the Americans, the people, the politicians that you vote for are just as good or as bad as you who voted for them. The politicians that you vote for are just as good or will just be as bad as you people that vote for them. Amanda is being very biblical about that issue. Let me give you the context. Amanda about Abamoba Kawola and Mulera and Abengira politics. But from a congregation of Christians. Nga twaisa mieba kutira unika bolala. You are the first people to argue at awe mulekeni fie. Mwalimu pata fie. Abayeba ume. You the same people. Because you don't know me. So you must listen to one of my colleagues or the people that know me when they are telling you Wynter bolala. But if you want to argue with me, The person who knows the people that are in the arena today, and you want to vote using your tribe, you want to vote using a packet of sugar that has been given to you, you are the people that are producing the parliament of Amamba, not Ifama politicians. You don't want to listen. Tamumfwa. You cannot be advised. You have the politics of this country now, which is degenerating into tribalism. You vote for people not because of their capacity and not because of merit. Unavota not kutira muntu kuti ambombela. No. Tunavota pantu muntu wakumyesu. Kwa mana, that's your benchmark. So ingawaba wakumwenu na munika bolala mwavota. 3, iyo mulandira ati ama politicians bakula abaletina abantu. It's the same thing. Kabolala tina abantu. That's why he kabolala. That's why he breaks into your house at night. Why does he do that? He knows that umunganda muli abantu. But I control door nangwa atobe window ayingira munganda. Omwaishi bati mumunganda muli abantu. Bantu kabolala tatina abantu. So if you are going to vote for corrupt people, you are going to vote for Pompwe, there is no way they are going to give you respect. You'll just be wasting your time. We are soon getting into the campaign period. And everybody will start going round. You'll be the same people who will be cheering Bakabolana. So I don't agree with you, Mwamba. Naimwebene, naba nenu, mwiroleshe. Examine yourselves. Politicians don't vote for themselves. They are voted by you, the people. So when you make a mistake of choice, accept it. Okay? Mufile maichi wakutila ukuvota ni once every 5 years. Na mapanga mistake mu 2021, the next vote mu 2026, the next election 2031. So that's an exercise that you must take very seriously. Okay? What was Aaron's question?
I think he was trying to basically commend your works, as well as find out in relation to I believe in relation to whether or not apologies, I seem to have.
You also can't remember.
Yes, I think I've confused.
Sorry, Aaron, but
kindly text us. Actually, yes.
Text the question, but
yes.
What you wanted was the number on which you can reach me.
Yes.
So you can call this number 0974 218891. 23.
That's the number.
218891.
218891. Okay. 0974218891. That is the number that you can actually call.
Call that number and then he will give you an appointment. I would like also to meet you.
We 0977336085 or 0761700700. Those are the numbers you can actually call, and you'll be able to actually get through to the studio as we get the next set of questions. Hello, you're through to One Love Radio. Your name and where you are calling us from. Yes, Vasem from Mansa.
Good afternoon. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Thank you so much. We pick up two more calls, and as we are actually heading towards the end of the program, we pick up two more calls. If you have a question for President Kabimba, you'll be able to actually get a hold. Mr. Nyirenda actually has sent the message reminding us of the question. It was in relation to the tobacco. Yes, the tobacco bill. Yes,
thank you, Aaron. Thank you very much.
So that will actually be. Maybe you can start with Mr. Aaron's question, and then we'll go to Mr. Semu, and then we pick up another call, and you can actually respond to those ones. So we have a message here from Mr. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Actually, one of our listeners was actually helping us by reminding us what Mr. Nyirenda was actually asking.
Okay.
So yes. So we pick up one more call just so that we can actually have those three, and then you can respond. Hello, you are through to One Love Radio. Your name and where you're calling us from?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you? Banda?
Banda David.
David Banda? The lawyer? Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. David. Yes, so we truly appreciate everyone that has come through via calls, and we allow President Kabimba to actually respond to those questions, starting with the tobacco bill that came through from Mr. Aaron Nyirenda. The question to say, what is your thought, if you've had some time to actually read the bill, what your thoughts are on the tobacco bill?
Thank you, Aaron, and I'm glad you put the caveat. I have not read the tobacco bill, so I don't want to mislead you. but I can talk in general terms. That you have two competing interests here. You have the manufacturers of tobacco, and you also have the consumers of tobacco who are vulnerable to establish scientific evidence now that tobacco is bad for your health. Okay? And I think the job for government, any elected government, is to protect the people. And not those that want to make profit. So if I were in Parliament to make my contribution, I think that would be the line that I would take.
Okay.
The next question was?
The next question was from Mr. Semu, who says you are in an alliance.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Nasem. One of the things that really amazes me in this country, is how people do not follow the conversation on the aspects of our political activity. I've answered that question many a time, that the economic front is not yet a member of the UPND alliance. We have not yet signed a memorandum of understanding between the alliance partners and ourselves. Secondly, the same is saying, why don't you take those ideas, to government? That's exactly what I'm doing through this program. I don't believe the same that I've left my house, I've left my office, and I've come here just to come and look at Kondwani's handsome face. Come here to spend time, to interact with you, and to interact with those that are in the government. So it's really up to them to sieve my ideas. If I'm talking a bit of sense, they can use the ideas. If they think I'm talking nonsense, just like even members of the public, you that are in the public, that is also your opinion. I will not have a quarrel with you. So, I think we should be thanking One Love Radio for organizing a program like this. So this is how the Assembly is able to pick us from Mansa. And then we are able to interact with you. So if you can pick up this conversation from Mansa, what about members of cabinet, members of government that are in Lusaka? Surely, if they are interested, they can get something from this discourse between you and I. Okay?
Yeah. And then the last question was from Mr. Banda David, who was asking about, I think he asked a number of questions, but I think the predominant one was the issues to do with the UPND convention and whether you have information about whether or not. But
no, I don't. Like I've said, we are not in the alliance, so we have no idea what is going on inside there. I'll be misleading the public. So what is going on inside there is amongst the alliance partners. What is going on in Tonse is amongst the Tonse members there. What is going on in Pamozi alliance is so we are not members of any of these alliances, and therefore we have no idea about what is going on inside there.
Okay. Now, President Kabimba, unfortunately we have run out of time. I would like to ask that in under a minute you deliver your farewell message to the people and the listeners in the country.
Well, firstly, thanks very much for having invited us, my colleagues and I, to this program, to come and be able to interact with you, and through you interact with members of the public. I think this is an important year for the country, and Zambians are renowned for holding peaceful, non-violent elections. Okay? We are reputed for peaceful campaigns, exchange of ideas with due respect for one another. So I have no doubt that this culture will again present itself this year.
Okay.
So I want to encourage members of the economic front out there to remain strong, remain steadfast. I want to encourage other political parties that we should continue to offer our ideas to the Zambian people so that at the end of the day, the choice becomes theirs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just so we can actually maybe add a message that came